David Miller's fingers gripped the silver-framed wedding photo on his desk. His knuckles turned white with suppressed rage as 15 years of memories taunted him. Katie's auburn hair gleamed in the summer light, and her smile radiated joy and promise. All lies, he now knew. Every moment, every kiss, every whispered "I love you" was tainted by her betrayal. His construction empire demanded his full attention. The phone buzzed with another message from Mitch about the Henderson project sign-offs, but David ignored it while his mind replayed the warning signs. He recalled the new clothes in her closet, sudden password changes, and late meetings that left traces of unfamiliar cologne. His secretary's voice crackled through the intercom. "Mr. Miller, Mr. Thompson is here about the downtown development. Send him in." David's voice, full of authority, responded as he tucked the photo into his desk drawer beneath contracts and permits. Roger Thompson strode in, radiating the nervous energy of a man who believed his money made him important. "David, we need to discuss the timeline," he said. "The timeline stays as agreed." David cut him off, standing tall. "Your financing delays don't change my schedule." Moving to the window overlooking the construction site, David declared, "You came to me because I'm the best. I deliver on time, every time. That is non-negotiable." Thompson's protest died in his throat. David Miller's reputation was fair but uncompromising, generous to allies and merciless to those who crossed him. The downtown development would make Thompson millions, but only if David's company handled the construction. After Thompson left, Mitch knocked on the door. 20 years of friendship had earned him entry without waiting. "The Henderson project needs your sign-off, boss." "And Jessica Henderson called twice this morning," Mitch reported. David's jaw tightened. Jessica Henderson, Katie's mentor who had given her a break in real estate, had once been part of their crowning achievement. Now the luxury apartment project was a battlefield in their collapsing marriage. "How long have you known?" David asked, fixing Mitch with a penetrating stare. Mitch shifted uncomfortably. "Known what?" "About Katie and Robert Walsh." Silence stretched between them. Mitch sank into a chair, his weathered face lined with concern. "I wasn't sure at first. I saw them at Riverside Cafe last month. It could have been business, but the way they looked was unprofessional." Mitch pulled out his wallet and extracted a business card. "Rebecca Torres, private investigator and former detective. She's discreet and thorough." David memorized the number. "You should have told me sooner," David exclaimed. "Would you have believed me?" Mitch challenged. "You've been blind to Katie's behavior since the day she walked into your father's hardware store," Mitch continued. The mention of his father sparked fresh pain. At James Miller's funeral 6 months ago, Katie held his hand and whispered words of comfort. Had she been involved with Robert even then? Was her sympathy genuine, or just another performance in her elaborate deception? "I trusted her," David admitted, his words burning his throat. "That's on her, not you." Mitch clapped a hand on his shoulder. "But what happens next is on you." David reached for his phone and dialed Rebecca Torres. She answered on the second ring in a no-nonsense tone. "Mr. Miller, I've been expecting your call. Mitch contacted me last week. I've already started preliminary surveillance." "When would you like to meet?" she asked. David checked his calendar. "Tonight, my office. Bring all relevant documents, schedules, phone records, bank statements. The sooner we start, the more evidence we can gather." The day passed in a blur of meetings and site inspections. David maintained his commanding presence, yet his mind churned with possibilities. Katie had always praised his attention to detail and meticulous planning. Rebecca's office, on the third floor of a converted warehouse with no flashy signs, offered the discretion his situation required. She greeted him with a firm handshake, her dark eyes assessing him with professional detachment. "Tell me everything," she instructed. Opening a notebook, David recounted the changes in Katie's behavior, suspicious patterns, and growing distance. Rebecca took notes and asked clarifying questions. When he finished, she snapped the notebook shut decisively. I require at least 3 months of surveillance, phone records, email monitoring, and physical observation. My brother Michael handles the digital side. He's a former NSA agent who can access things legally that most cannot. It won't be cheap, David stated. Money's not an issue. Rebecca nodded, unsurprised. There's something else you should know. You are not the first husband to hire me because of Robert Walsh. He has a pattern of targeting successful real estate agents, usually married once. His affairs usually last 6 to 8 months before he moves on. David's hands curled into fists. You've investigated him before? He asked. 3 times. Different agencies, different cities. He's careful, but not careful enough, she replied. She pulled a file from her desk. This is everything I have on him. Review it, and then we'll discuss strategy. The file contained photographs, dates, and witness statements that revealed Robert Walsh's predatory pattern with nauseating clarity. His calculated approach, gradual seduction, and eventual destruction of marriages and careers were laid bare. What happened to the other wives? David inquired. They tried to save their marriages, confronted their husbands, and even attempted counseling. It never worked. Walsh had already poisoned the well, Rebecca stated firmly. I won't make that mistake, David assured her. Good, because this isn't just about your marriage anymore. Preliminary digging suggests that Katie and Walsh are collaborating on deals behind their firms' backs, splitting commissions, and manipulating listings. Highly unethical, possibly illegal, Rebecca declared. David absorbed the information, his rage crystallizing into cold determination. Get me proof. All of it, he ordered. And I want them to feel secure, comfortable. Let them think they're getting away with it. Rebecca added. Understanding perfectly, Mr. Miller, she said with a cold smile. Sometimes the best revenge requires patience. Over the next several weeks, David maintained a careful facade. He attended business functions with Katie and played the role of a devoted husband. If she noticed anything amiss, she showed no sign. Her own deception had blinded her to his. Evidence accumulated steadily. Rebecca's surveillance photos showed intimate lunches, secret meetings in parking lots, and upscale hotel rendezvous. Michael Torres intercepted text messages that left no doubt about the depth of their betrayal, both personal and professional. They're getting sloppy, Rebecca reported during a weekly meeting. Walsh booked a room at the Grand next week, the same place they met last month. David reviewed the latest photos. One showed Katie and Robert walking through Madison Park, where he had proposed 15 years ago. The final insult. It's time, he decided. Contact Walsh's wife. Sandra Walsh proved to be a formidable ally. The corporate lawyer examined Rebecca's evidence and saw not only personal betrayal but professional opportunity. Robert has done this before, she confirmed as her perfectly painted lips curved into a predatory smile. Oh, I have special plans for my dear husband. The evidence of professional misconduct is especially damaging. The Real Estate Board views commission splitting very harshly. David outlined his plan. Sandra's eyes lit up with interest. La Maison Rouge, she mused. Our regular spot, according to your investigator. Yes, that could work. Thomas Reed did me a favor. He'll help set the stage. The pieces fell into place with devastating precision. Jessica Henderson, upon learning of Katie's betrayal, pledged her full support. The luxury apartment complex contract, Katie and Robert's anticipated golden ticket, would become their downfall. David had the locks changed on a Tuesday. Frank, the locksmith, worked quickly and efficiently, adding an extra deadbolt at his request. Packed suitcases upstairs held designer bags and everything Katie had bought since the affair began. A fitting touch. Let her keep the fruits of her betrayal. The stage was set. The players were in position. Now all that remained was the final act, the moment when Katie would realize how completely her carefully constructed world was about to crumble. David prowled through his home office, reviewing each element of his plan with cold precision. The The packed suitcases upstairs held more than just clothing. They held evidence of every secret meeting and betrayal committed by Katie over the past months. Rebecca Torres' surveillance photos, hotel receipts, and intercepted text messages were meticulously organized and annotated. A message from Michael Torres confirmed that all email accounts were secured and every communication channel monitored. They wouldn't be able to delete anything. David allowed himself a grim smile. Michael's expertise had proven invaluable, revealing a pattern of deception that extended far beyond the affair. Katie and Robert's professional misconduct, the secret commission splitting and manipulated listings, would destroy their careers as thoroughly as their personal betrayal would destroy their marriages. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Sandra Walsh entered elegantly in her designer suit. The corporate lawyer carried a thick manila envelope and divorce papers, which she placed on his desk. "Everything is in order," she announced. "The prenuptial agreement is airtight. You won't get a penny more than you brought into the marriage," she declared. David examined the documents and noticed Sandra's perfectly painted lips curve into a predatory smile. "Oh, I have special plans for my dear husband," she said. "The evidence of professional misconduct is especially damaging. The real estate board views commission splitting very harshly," she continued. Moments later, David said, "Jessica Henderson called this morning. She wants to meet before tonight." Sandra checked her watch. Speaking of timing, Thomas Reed confirmed the arrangements at La Maison Rouge. "Everything is set for tonight," she said. The restaurant had become an unexpected ally in their plan. Thomas Reed, the owner, had developed a strong dislike for Robert Walsh's behavior in his establishment. "He used my wine cellar for his liaisons," Thomas had spat during their meeting. "Not anymore," he vowed. "Tonight, every door except the main entrance would be locked. Where will you be waiting?" A text from Rebecca Torres appeared on David's phone. It read, "Subject 1 just purchased a new dress from Nordstrom. Subject 2 confirmed the dinner reservation." "They're sticking to the script," Sandra observed. "Overconfident. Good." David moved to the window, watching the construction site across the street. The Henderson project, once a shared achievement with Katie, would now be a monument to her downfall. His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Mr. Miller, Ms. Henderson is here." Jessica Henderson swept into the office, radiating the confidence of a woman used to commanding rooms. Her expression softened with sympathy upon seeing David. "I've spoken with the board," she announced. "The apartment complex contract is yours. Not just construction but development, marketing, and sales." David raised an eyebrow. Katie and Robert were counting on that contract. They should have thought of that before betraying everyone who trusted them. Jessica's voice, once that of a mentor, now carried the weight of betrayal. "I gave Katie her start in this business and taught her everything I know," she said bitterly. "And this is how she repays loyalty." Sandra interjected, "When the contract news breaks tomorrow, they will have nothing left to salvage." Jessica nodded approvingly. "I've already informed the other investors. They stand solidly behind you. After tonight, Katie and Robert will find no ally in this industry. The pieces of our plan locked into place with the satisfaction of a vault door being closed." The next hour unfolded exactly as David had planned. Katie's desperate attempts to contact Robert went unanswered, and Michael's digital interference ensured a complete communication blackout. Her frantic calls to her real estate office were met with silence. Jessica Henderson had already informed the partners of their misconduct. David watched from his study as Katie paced the foyer, her perfect world disintegrating. The designer dress she had bought for her rendezvous now mocked her, a costume for a play that had ended abruptly. "The car is waiting," David informed her coldly. "Unless you prefer to explain yourself to the real estate board tomorrow," he warned. "I hear they're particularly interested in those commission splits you arranged with Robert." Outside, a black sedan idled, another piece of Rebecca's meticulous planning. Its driver, an associate of hers, ensured that Katie would reach La Maison Rouge exactly on schedule. At the door, Katie pleaded, "David, please. Her voice trembled. 15 years of marriage. Doesn't that mean anything? It meant everything. David retorted. Until you decided my father's funeral was a good time to start an affair with Robert. He added, I know about that too. Rebecca's timelines are flawless. The color drained from Katie's face as the depth of her betrayal was laid bare. Silenced, she grabbed the suitcases with trembling hands. What happens now? She whispered. Now you face the consequences of your choices, David declared. Sandra is eager to discuss your actions with her husband, he continued. Her exit from their home marked the end of 15 years of shared life. David watched through the window as she climbed into the waiting car, her designer suitcases loaded into the trunk. Rebecca's surveillance van followed discreetly. David's phone buzzed with updates from their co-conspirators. Subject en route. Everything ready. Sandra is in position. Thomas Reed. Digital lockdown complete. Michael Torres. David allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. Months of planning and maintaining his facade had led to this moment. Katie and Robert thought they were clever, but they never suspected the trap they had walked into. His phone rang. Jessica Henderson calling for an update. It's done, he reported. She's on her way to the restaurant. Jessica's satisfaction was clear. The board members are prepared for an emergency meeting, and their licenses won't survive this scandal. And the Henderson project. The contracts are being revised as we speak. By tomorrow, Miller Construction will control the entire development. A most successful evening's work. David walked through the house, noting how every room had become evidence of Katie's deception. The kitchen, once warm with dinner parties, now felt stripped of warmth. The living room was hollow with memories. Mitch texted, construction crews finished at the Henderson site. Need anything else tonight, boss? David replied, no, but be ready tomorrow. We're taking over the entire project. A video message from Thomas Reed followed. The restaurant's security feed showed Sandra Walsh confronting Robert in a crowded dining room, with Katie's arrival completing the public spectacle of their exposure. Rebecca's report came shortly after. Mission accomplished. Both subjects were thoroughly compromised, especially Mrs. Walsh's performance. David poured himself a scotch, his father's preferred drink. James Miller had always preached the importance of building with integrity. Katie's betrayal had not only destroyed their marriage, but also disrespected everything his father stood for. The final texts arrived in quick succession. All digital evidence forwarded to the real estate board, divorce papers filed, surveillance concluding with a full report tomorrow, and every detail secured. David stood at his office window, watching the city lights and the skeletal structure of the Henderson project rise against the skyline. No longer a symbol of shared success, it was now a monument to her downfall. Tomorrow, construction would continue under his sole direction. The empire he built would grow stronger, while Katie and Robert's world of lies crumbled to dust. His phone buzzed one last time. A message from Katie. You've destroyed everything. David typed back, you did that yourself. He then deleted her number and turned off his phone, concluding Act 1 of their story. Katie's betrayal had taught him that trust, once broken, could never be repaired. But power, properly wielded, could reshape the world. The Henderson project dominated the skyline, its steel beams rising like a monument to broken trust. David Miller stood at the construction site's entrance, watching the crew position massive support columns. 6 weeks had passed since that night at La Maison Rouge, yet the satisfaction of revenge burned as brightly as a settling torch. Morning, boss, Mitch called out as he approached with 2 coffee cups. You're here early again. David accepted the coffee without turning. Updates. The foundation is solid, and the east wing is ahead of schedule, he reported. Mitch paused. But that's not why you're here at this hour. The work matters, yet you're pushing too hard. He lowered his voice amid the construction noise. When was the last time you slept more than 4 hours? Mitch asked. David's grip tightened on the cup. I don't need a nursemaid, Mitch. You need a friend who tells you the truth, he replied. Mitch continued. You're here before dawn. Leave after dark. The crew is starting to talk. Let them talk. They're worried about you. Hell, I'm worried about you. Mitch looked him in the eye. Katie's gone. You won. But you're acting as if you're still fighting a war that's already over. David's voice carried a dangerous edge. Before David could respond, Jessica Henderson's Mercedes pulled into the construction site. She emerged in an impeccably tailored suit, commanding attention amid the industrial chaos. Approaching David with purposeful strides, she said, "We need to discuss the penthouse specifications, and I've brought someone you should meet." A second woman, tall and professional, exited the Mercedes. Jessica introduced her. Amanda Pierce, the designer I mentioned. She's transformed half the luxury properties in the city. David assessed Amanda with a practiced eye. Her portfolio revealed innovative vision, and her steady gaze impressed him. "Mr. Miller, I've studied your work. You understand structure, not just buildings, but spaces that shape lives," Amanda said, extending her hand. "I'd like to show you how we can elevate that vision," she added. David replied, "My office." She nodded crisply. "I'll bring the renderings," and returned to the Mercedes. Jessica lingered. "She's the best in the business," she said, glancing meaningfully at David. "She's nothing like Katie." David's expression hardened. "Katie is irrelevant." "Is she?" Jessica asked softly. "You're here at dawn, driving yourself and your crew to exhaustion. That is not the David Miller who built this company. The David Miller who built this company trusted too easily, and now trusts no one." Jessica shook her head in concern. "That's not strength, David. That's fear." He turned to her sharply, but Jessica held up a hand. "You're not the only one Katie betrayed. She was my protégé. I staked my reputation on her, but I won't let that betrayal poison everything I build next." "Is that why you brought Amanda Pierce here?" "I brought her because she's brilliant at what she does, and because the Henderson project deserves the best." Jessica straightened her jacket. "What you do with that opportunity is your choice." She departed, leaving David to contemplate the rising structure before him. Mitch remained silent, understanding his friend needed space. David's phone buzzed with a message from Rebecca Torres, requesting a meeting and new information about Walsh. The investigator's office was stark and professional. Rebecca sat behind her desk with a fresh file open before her. "Robert Walsh is getting desperate," she reported without preamble. "He tried accessing your company records through a former employee last night." David's expression did not change. "Name: James Chun, junior accountant you fired last year." Rebecca slid a surveillance photo across the desk. "Walsh offered him $10,000 for password access. Chun accepted." "No, he came to us instead." Rebecca's smile held professional satisfaction. She said he preferred a clear conscience over quick cash. Walsh did not take the rejection well. David absorbed the information, his mind already calculating responses. "Increased surveillance. I want to know everyone Walsh contacts." "Already done," came the reply. "Michael is monitoring his digital footprint." Rebecca hesitated. "There's more. Katie's been making calls." "To whom?" "Your father's old customers, suppliers, anyone connected to Miller Construction's early days." Her voice softened slightly as she sought leverage. David laughed with no humor. "She won't find any. My father ran a clean business. It's not about finding real dirt." Rebecca leaned forward. "It's about creating doubt and planting seeds of suspicion. Walsh is teaching her his tricks. Then they'll learn what happens to those who try to harm what my father built." David stood. "Keep watching. Record everything, David." Her use of his first name made him pause. "Be careful. Desperate people are unpredictable." He left without responding, his mind already formulating plans. The Henderson project would be his masterpiece, not just a building, but a statement. Each floor and luxury apartment would stand as a testament to what happens when you betray David Miller. Back at the construction site, Amanda Pierce waited with her designs. The conference room table was covered with sophisticated renderings and material samples. The penthouses need statement pieces, she explained, gesturing to a striking design. Not just luxury, but innovation. David studied the renderings, noting the attention to detail and subtle integration of form and function. These would add 30% to the budget and triple the return on investment. Amanda met his gaze steadily. Amanda's voice carried quiet confidence. Why this project? Because it matters, she said while pointing to a sample of Italian marble with unique veining. This design is not just luxury. It is innovation that creates a new standard. She stepped closer, pointing to specific design elements. This isn't just another luxury building. It's a statement about rising above and creating something extraordinary from betrayal. He looked at her sharply. Yes, I know about Katie. This industry runs on gossip, he said. Amanda's expression remained professional. But I'm here because you build things that last, Mr. Miller. The discussion then extended into technical specifications and design philosophies. Amanda's expertise impressed him. I'll consider the proposals, he said finally. Amanda gathered her materials. Consider this. The Henderson project will be your defining statement. Make it one worth remembering. After she left, David received another update from Rebecca. Walsh was spotted meeting with former Henderson project contractors, trying to gather information about construction standards. A cold rage settled over him. Walsh wasn't just trying to harm his business. He was attacking his father's legacy. The response would have to be decisive. He opened his laptop and accessed the files Michael Torres had compiled. Each document, transaction, and communication between Katie and Walsh had been meticulously recorded. Their desperation made them sloppy. David picked up his phone and dialed Jessica Henderson. Approve the design changes, he said when she answered. Jessica's smile came through her voice. Amanda Pierce convinced you. She understands what this project means. Yes, she does, David replied. Jessica added, let her help, not just with designs. She's built something remarkable from her own setbacks. I don't need, David began. You need allies who understand the long game, Jessica interrupted. Amanda does. Don't let Katie and Walsh's betrayal blind you to new opportunities. David ended the call and turned to watch the construction through his office window. The Henderson project rose steadily, each beam a part of his calculated response to betrayal. His phone buzzed again. Mitch requested approval for additional crews to handle the enhanced designs, and David authorized the expenses without hesitation. The project would become his masterpiece of revenge, a monument to what happens when you cross David Miller. The sun climbed higher as he remained at his desk, reviewing proposals and making calls. The work consumed him, pushing away thoughts of empty houses and broken trust. Here, surrounded by plans and contracts, he focused on building something stronger than betrayal. Amanda Pierce's proposal transformed the Miller construction offices within weeks. The sleek conference room buzzed with energy as she presented her vision for a merged company to David's executive team. The market demands innovation, she explained, commanding attention effortlessly. David observed from the head of the table as his team leaned forward, engaged by her confidence and clarity. Miller and Pierce developments won't just build luxury properties, they will create complete lifestyle experiences. Her design firm's portfolio showed consistent growth and a prestigious client list. Questions, Amanda concluded, meeting each executive's gaze. Marcus Chin, head of operations, raised his hand. Integration timeline. 30 days, she replied confidently. My team's ready. We've already coordinated with Jessica Henderson's investors. Ambitious, Marcus noted. Necessary, David interjected. The Henderson project launches our new brand. Timing matters. The meeting continued, delving into technical details and logistics. Throughout, David noticed Amanda's subtle leadership, direct yet confident, unlike Katie's manipulative charm. One more thing, Amanda announced as the meeting concluded. I've identified several top agents from competing firms interested in joining us, including 3 from Katie's former office. David's interest sharpened. Names, he asked. Sarah Chun, Michael Rodriguez, and James Foster, she replied while sliding a folder across the table. They're tired of office politics and ready for something new, she said. Their client lists would significantly expand our reach, striking a blow to Katie's dwindling network. After the others left, Amanda stayed. You're planning something bigger than just a merger, David inquired. Meaning? She asked. The agents I suggested. They're the ones Katie relied on most, Amanda stated. David studied her. Why help me with this? Because I recognize calculated revenge when I see it, she replied. Her professional mask slipped, revealing steel beneath. My ex-husband tried to destroy my firm during our divorce. I rebuilt it stronger, took his clients, and made him irrelevant, she confessed. Understanding passed between them. Amanda wasn't just a potential partner. She understood the satisfaction of rising from betrayal. The merger announcement goes out tomorrow, David decided. Have your team ready. The next weeks passed in a blur of activity. Amanda's efficiency matched David's drive, and the new company took shape with remarkable speed. Each decision was calculated for maximum impact. Michael Torres integrated their digital systems, ensuring seamless communication and ironclad security. Walsh tried another breach attempt one evening. More sophisticated this time, Michael reported. Source: a cyber cafe across town. He's getting sloppy. Michael's grin was predatory. He left digital fingerprints all over it. I've documented everything for Rebecca's files, Michael added. The investigators' report showed increasing desperation from both Katie and Walsh. Their small independent operation struggled to maintain clients after news of the merger broke. They're hemorrhaging money, Rebecca detailed. Walsh tried approaching Jessica Henderson's investors but was shut down hard. Sandra Walsh, now serving as the merged company's legal counsel, noted Robert's pattern is consistent with his past failures. When legitimate options close, he turns to sabotage. David absorbed their reports, his mind already calculating next moves. The merger's success exceeded projections, drawing industry-wide attention. Each headline about Miller and Pierce developments drove another nail into Katie and Walsh's professional coffin. Amanda proved invaluable, her industry connections opening doors that had previously been closed. She understood the importance of perception and presentation. The Henderson project is generating massive interest, she reported during a late strategy session. The waiting list for penthouse units kept growing. David reviewed the numbers. Increased the prices by 20%. Already done, Amanda confirmed, matching his ruthless instincts. I also leaked details about our sustainable luxury features to the press, she added. The contrast with standard developments was striking. Amanda's presence made the office feel alive again, filled with purpose beyond revenge. She challenged his ideas, pushed for innovation, and demanded excellence. You're different now, Mitch observed one day as he watched Amanda coordinate with the construction crews. Less consumed, he asked carefully. David did not respond. Later that night, while reviewing project files in his office, he acknowledged the truth in Mitch's words. The anger still burned, but it had evolved into a determination to build something unprecedented. Robert Walsh's desperation manifested in increasingly bold attempts to undermine Miller and Pierce developments. Rumors circulated about the construction standards at the Henderson project, whispered insinuations of cut corners, and compromised safety. He's getting reckless, Rebecca Torres warned during an emergency meeting. My sources say he's approaching building inspectors to find weak points, she said. David remained outwardly calm, but his voice carried lethal intent. Evidence. Michael intercepted emails, and Rebecca passed her tablet along. He's promising kickbacks for any violations he can find. A stupid mistake that left a digital trail, she reported. Amanda studied the emails. This is good, she said. Good, Mitch questioned. He's crossed a line. Amanda's smile was cold. Attempting to bribe officials is not just unethical. It's illegal. David nodded. Sandra? He asked. She's already preparing the documentation, their legal counsel confirmed. The real estate board takes these allegations very seriously. Given his past misconduct, the counterattack took shape with precision. Jessica Henderson stepped forward, publicly praising the Henderson Project's exceptional standards. Her reputation carried weight, drawing attention to Walsh's desperate accusations. We need to handle this definitively, Amanda argued during a strategy session. Not just defend, but destroy, she insisted. David regarded her with newfound appreciation. Suggestions, he prompted. Thomas Reed's security footage came up. Amanda leaned forward, her eyes intense. Show Walsh's pattern with other women at La Maison Rouge. Create doubt about everything he says. The plan expanded with input from their allies. Michael Torres traced Walsh's digital harassment campaign, while Sandra compiled documentation of his past violations. Rebecca's surveillance revealed increasingly erratic behavior. He's unraveling, she reported. He had started drinking during the day. Katie was trying to handle clients alone, but she was losing them fast. David watched as their reputations crumbled with cold satisfaction. The Henderson Project rose steadily, each floor a monument to his response to betrayal. Walsh's desperate accusations fell flat against the reality of Miller and Pierce's success. There's more, Amanda announced one evening as she brought fresh intelligence. Remember those agents we hired from Katie's old firm? They'd been sharing stories about Walsh's pattern of workplace manipulation going back years. The information was devastating. Former colleagues described Walsh's predatory behavior, Katie's involvement, and her willingness to participate, painted her as equally culpable. The industry responded swiftly. Clients abandoned their agency in droves. Jessica Henderson declared, "No one will work with them after this." But David knew better than to underestimate desperate people. Walsh's next move proved predictably vicious. He attempted to access Miller and Pierce's financial records through a disgruntled former employee, James Chun. Rebecca identified the target, a junior accountant who fired last year. Walsh offered him money for password access. David's response was immediate and ruthless. Chun received a cease and desist letter from Sandra, along with evidence of his meeting with Walsh. The message was clear. Cooperation with enemies of Miller and Pierce would have severe consequences. Walsh is running out of options, Amanda observed. He's burning through their savings and losing clients daily. Katie is trying to distance herself, but it's too late. That observation sparked an idea. David gathered his inner circle, Amanda, Rebecca, Michael, Sandra, and Jessica, for a strategic discussion. We've been targeting them as a unit. Time to separate them, he said. Amanda caught on. Drive a wedge. Make Katie realize Walsh is dragging her down. Exactly, David said with a merciless smile. Let's show her exactly who she chose over 15 years of marriage. The plan unfolded with devastating efficiency. Evidence of Walsh's previous affairs emerged mysteriously. His pattern of using women for professional gain became public knowledge. Katie found herself not only professionally ruined but publicly humiliated. Their agency's collapse seemed inevitable. Walsh's desperate attempts to salvage his reputation only accelerated their downfall. The contrast with Miller and Pierce's soaring success was especially bitter. David watched it all from his office at the Henderson Project site. The betrayal that had driven him transformed into a complete reinvention of his company and himself. Amanda joined him one evening, surveying the construction progress. "We've created something remarkable here," she said. "We have," David agreed, noting how naturally she fit beside him. Her presence had become constant, her strength and vision complementing his own. The sunset behind the rising structure signaled that revenge was far from complete. Act 2 had transformed his pain into power and his betrayal into empire, but the final reckoning still awaited. Miller and Pierce developments now dominated the city's luxury real estate market, a testament to calculated revenge served cold. David sat in his office reviewing Michael Torres' latest intelligence report on Robert Walsh's desperate machinations. "He's getting sloppy," Michael explained, pointing to data from 3 breach attempts last week. Each attempt came from different locations, yet shared the same signature. Walsh used public networks, thinking he was untraceable. And Katie, still with him, was in a strange situation. They lost 6 major listings this month. Their operating capital was nearly depleted. Amanda Pierce entered without knocking. The real estate board called. "They want to discuss Walsh's license review," she announced. David turned to Michael. "Send them everything. All of it." Michael raised an eyebrow. "Even the La Maison Rouge footage?" "Especially that," David replied with lethal certainty. "Time to end this." Amanda settled into a chair with her tablet. "I've compiled documentation of his pattern across 3 states. Previous affairs, failed ventures, and ethical violations. Rebecca's investigation was thorough, and Sandra had prepared the legal framework. The board won't just suspend his license. They'll make an example of him," Sandra said. David absorbed the information, his mind calculating next moves. Their clients were already jumping ship. Amanda's smile held satisfaction. "That feature in our sustainable design approach will hit them hard. Nobody wants to list with a struggling agency when Miller and Pierce offer innovation." The intercom buzzed. "Mr. Miller, Jessica Henderson is here." Jessica swept in, radiating controlled anger. "Walsh approached my investors again, trying to sell them a desperate scheme about boutique properties." David demanded. "Names?" he asked. "Marcus Chun and William Roberts," Jessica replied. Her disgust was evident. "They shut him down, but he's getting reckless, making wild accusations about our construction standards." David's phone lit up with a text from Rebecca. "Target spotted meeting former contractors, gathering evidence for a smear campaign." "Perfect," David murmured. Amanda caught his tone. "You wanted this. Walsh is predictable. Push him hard enough. And he makes mistakes." David turned to Michael. "Track those server access attempts. Record the IP addresses, timestamps, and durations," he ordered. Michael's grin turned predatory. "Send everything to Sandra." The pieces aligned with brutal precision. Walsh's desperate attacks provided the perfect opportunity to deliver the final blow. Rebecca Torres arrived an hour later with fresh surveillance photos. "They're fighting constantly now. Katie is realizing the truth about him. But it's too late," she said. The photos showed Walsh in a deteriorating state, rumpled clothes, day drinking, and aggressive confrontations with former colleagues. Several images showed Katie trying to salvage client meetings alone while Walsh spiraled. "She's approaching old contacts," Rebecca reported, "trying to distance herself from him, but his reputation has poisoned her too." David examined a photo of Katie leaving a bank, desperation clear in her posture. "Financial status? Nearly broke," he observed. Rebecca noted, "Walsh is burning through their reserves and making risky investments. When they collapse, she goes down with him." David's brief satisfaction whispered, "Good." Amanda studied him. "You planned this from the beginning, letting them stay together and watching them destroy each other," she said. Walsh's pattern was clear. He discards women when they are no longer useful. "But Katie," David's voice hardened. "Katie chose him. She can share his fate." The real estate board meeting was scheduled for the following week. Sandra Walsh prepared their presentation with meticulous detail, combining financial records, surveillance evidence, and witness testimonies into a devastating case. "The board is particularly interested in proof of commission splitting," she reported. "That alone justifies license revocation. Add the corporate espionage attempts." "What about Katie?" Amanda asked. "Her license?" "Guilty by association." Sandra's smile was cold. "She knowingly participated in Walsh's schemes. The board won't show mercy." David surveyed his assembled team. Amanda, Michael, Rebecca, Sandra, and Jessica. Each had played their part in this elaborate revenge. "Tomorrow, we end this," he announced. The real estate board convened in downtown offices, with 12 industry veterans ready to pass judgment. Walsh arrived looking confident, with Katie beside him, her professional facade strained. Sandra presented their evidence with devastating efficiency: screenshots of illegal access attempts, documentation of commission splitting, and testimonies about Walsh's predatory behavior. The La Mise en Rouge security footage was particularly damning. Mr. Walsh has a pattern of ethical violations spanning multiple states, she concluded. His recent attempts to undermine competitors through false accusations and corporate espionage show he remains a threat to industry integrity. Walsh's rebuttal was rehearsed and defensive. These accusations are baseless. Miller's vendetta. Are these baseless too? Sandra interrupted, displaying his electronic footprints from the server breach attempts. Your digital signature is quite distinctive, Mr. Walsh. Katie sat silently, watching her future crumble. When Walsh attempted to blame her for the commission splitting, she finally broke down. It was his idea, she blurted. All of it. The deals, the cover-ups. Walsh turned on her with sudden fury. You agreed. You knew exactly what we were doing. The board members exchanged glances. Their decision required minimal deliberation. Robert Walsh, your license is permanently revoked. The chairman announced. Evidence of your activities will be shared with boards in other states. He then turned to Katie. Ms. Miller, your participation in these schemes leaves us no choice. Your license is suspended indefinitely. David watched from the back as their professional lives ended. Walsh stormed out, leaving Katie to face the consequences alone. That was a fitting parallel to their personal choices. Rebecca's surveillance team tracked Walsh to an airport the next day. One-way ticket to Phoenix, she reported. He left Katie to deal with their debts. Monitor his departure, David instructed. I want confirmation he's gone. The final phase of his revenge played out over the following weeks. Katie's attempts to salvage anything from the wreckage proved futile. Their joint accounts were drained. Their business assets became worthless. Jessica Henderson's investment group acquired the remains of their failed agency at auction. Poetic justice, she noted. Their last client contracts now belong to Miller and Pierce Developments. The collapse of Katie and Robert's world accelerated with brutal efficiency. Their office space, a modest suite in a downtown building, stood empty within days of the board's decision. David watched from his car as Katie carried out the last box. Her designer clothes were now wrinkled, and her once confident posture was broken. Latest report, Rebecca said as she slid into the passenger seat. Walsh cleared out their accounts before he left. Katie is now facing collection notices for their business debts. David's expression remained stone. The apartment? He asked. Eviction notice posted yesterday. She's got nowhere to go. Walsh's previous victims had warned all their contacts about her involvement in his schemes. Amanda Pierce coordinated the final blow. Miller and Pierce Developments purchased the building that housed their failed agency, a calculated move that transformed the location into a monument to their destruction. The renovation plans are ready, Amanda announced during a morning meeting. We'll turn it into our new headquarters with modern design and sustainable features, everything their operation lacked. David studied the blueprints with cold satisfaction. Timeline: 3 months, Amanda confirmed. We'll showcase it during the Industry Expo. Jessica Henderson had already arranged media coverage. Sandra Walsh arrived with updates on Walsh's departure. He surfaced in Phoenix, trying to rebuild, but I've made sure his reputation travels faster than he does, she explained. Explain, David demanded. Anonymous tips to local real estate boards, Sandra replied with professional pride. Details about his pattern of misconduct, license revocation, and corporate espionage were shared. He won't work in this industry again, she concluded. Katie's desperate attempts to contact David grew more frequent. Voice messages, emails, even handwritten letters delivered to his office. Each was documented, yet none received a reply. She's trying different approaches now, Rebecca reported. She's reaching out to your father's old friends, claiming she wants to apologize for betraying his memory. "Send the footage," David ordered. The surveillance video from his father's funeral played on Rebecca's tablet. Katie and Walsh met in the church parking lot. Their intimate behavior desecrated David's grief. The timestamp proved their affair had started before James Miller's death. "I've arranged a special delivery," said Amanda. It included the video plus documentation of their commission-splitting schemes dating back to that period. "Let her know exactly why she'll never receive forgiveness." The evidence package arrived at Katie's new address, a small apartment on the city's outskirts. That same day, Walsh's abandonment made local business news. The timing, like everything in David's revenge, was precisely calculated. Jessica Henderson provided the final touch. Her investment group acquired the remains of Katie and Robert's business assets at auction, absorbing their client list into Miller and Pierce developments. They built nothing lasting. Jessica observed during the signing. No loyal clients, no solid foundations, just schemes and betrayals. David's new headquarters took shape rapidly. Amanda's design transformed the space, erasing all traces of its former occupants. The contrast between Miller and Pierce's soaring success and Katie's downfall grew sharper each day. "We should celebrate properly," Amanda suggested. "Make it a statement." The launch party for the new headquarters was held at La Maison Rouge. Thomas Reed orchestrated the event with an understanding of its symbolic significance. The city's business elite attended, eager to align themselves with Miller and Pierce's rising star. Katie watched from across the street as guests arrived, her presence noted by Rebecca's surveillance team. She had lost weight. Her designer clothes were replaced by department store basics. The contrast was stark. She tried to crash the party, but Thomas Reed's security stopped her. As Rebecca later reported, she was crying and making a scene about needing to explain. David received this news without reaction. Status update: she was moving to her sister's place in another state. The eviction notice became final, and Walsh's financial betrayal left her without options. The party marked their triumph. Industry leaders praised Miller and Pierce's innovative approach. Jessica Henderson's investment group announced new projects, and Amanda Pierce's design vision earned accolades. David surveyed the celebration from a private corner. The revenge he had crafted had exceeded mere personal satisfaction. It had built an empire. 1 year had passed since the night David exposed Katie's betrayal. The Henderson project gleamed against the skyline, its luxury apartments fully occupied. Miller and Pierce developments had become the industry standard for excellence. David's office in the converted building offered views of his expanding empire. Each success erased more traces of Katie's existence in his world. Amanda entered with their latest acquisition plans. The Thompson contract was ready, biggest deal yet. She hesitated, then added that Katie was seen at the bus station this morning, leaving town for good. David absorbed this information without visible reaction. The anger that had driven him for so long had transformed into something more refined, absolute power over his domain. "You've won," Amanda stated simply and completely. She was right. Walsh was a ruined man in Phoenix, his attempts to rebuild blocked at every turn. Katie had lost everything: her career, reputation, and future. Their betrayal cost them far more than they had hoped to gain. The Thompson contract represented new opportunities, expansion beyond mere revenge. Miller and Pierce's success had grown beyond David's original vision. "We should mark the occasion," Amanda suggested. "Dinner, perhaps. Not La Maison Rouge, somewhere new." David studied her, strong, loyal, ruthlessly efficient. She had proven herself a true partner in business and revenge. The new Italian place by the river, he decided. Amanda smiled. Perfect. A fresh start, a new chapter. The sunset behind the Henderson building glowed as they left the office. David carried no reminders of Katie now, no traces of the past. He had built something stronger from the ashes of betrayal. In his desk drawer, the old wedding photo remained as a warning, not a wound. Beside it lay a new image: the Miller and Pierce team at their headquarters launch. It showed victors, not victims. The lesson was clear. Cross David Miller, and he will not just destroy you. He will erase you, replace you, and build an empire from your ruin. His revenge was complete, but his ambition stretched beyond. The city's skyline awaited more monuments to his power. Tomorrow would bring new projects, new opportunities. David Miller had transformed betrayal into an empire. The past was settled. The future belonged to those who understood the price of crossing him. The Italian restaurant offered views of his buildings rising against the darkening sky. Amanda raised her glass in a silent toast, and David accepted the gesture with the satisfaction of a man who had crafted destruction into creation. Some would call it revenge. He called it justice. The end justified his means, and the ruins of those who betrayed him served as foundations for his rising power. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities to demonstrate his strength. But tonight, David Miller allowed himself to savor victory, not just over Katie and Walsh, but over weakness itself. He had emerged stronger, more ruthless, and more successful. The betrayal that could have broken him had forged him into something unstoppable. The city lights reflected his triumph. Miller and Pierce developments would continue to grow. Each success was a reminder of the price of treachery. David Miller had not just survived betrayal. He had transformed it into an empire built on the ruins of those who dared to cross him. Epilogue. 5 years later, David Miller's office occupied the top floor of Miller and Pierce Tower, the latest addition to his expanding real estate empire. The Henderson project, once the battleground of his revenge, now seemed modest compared to his current ventures. 3 additional towers rose across the city skyline, each more ambitious than the last. The Beijing investors were waiting in the conference room. Amanda Pierce Miller, her wedding ring catching the light, handed him the latest contracts. Their marriage 2 years ago had merged more than just their companies. It had created an unstoppable force in the industry. Portfolio summary. David reviewed the documents. 8 luxury developments across 3 continents. The Asian expansion you planned is ahead of schedule, he noted. Amanda's business acumen had only sharpened over the years. Jessica Henderson's investment group was fully committed. Jessica herself had semi-retired but remained on their board of directors. Her mentorship of Katie, once a source of pain, had been replaced by strategic guidance of Miller and Pierce's global vision. Rebecca's latest report arrived. Amanda slid a tablet across the desk, and David opened the file, a habit he maintained despite the years. Rebecca Torres's surveillance firm had grown into a major security consulting agency with Miller and Pierce as its primary client. Robert Walsh, he inquired, though he already knew the answer would satisfy him. Still in Phoenix, 3 failed attempts to restart his career, each one blocked by Sandra's legal team. He was working as a part-time real estate photographer now, barely making rent. The mighty Robert Walsh had been reduced to photographing properties he once dreamed of selling. David allowed himself a moment of cold satisfaction. Amanda pulled up specific details about Katie. She was living with her sister in Minnesota, working retail at a home decoration store, with no attempts to renew her real estate license or contact industry connections. Her professional destruction had become a cautionary tale in real estate circles, a warning to anyone contemplating crossing David Miller. Mr. Miller. His assistant's voice came through the intercom. Michael Torres is here with the quarterly security briefing. Michael entered, now heading a cybersecurity division that protected more than just Miller and Pierce. His reputation for digital warfare had made him the go-to expert for corporations facing electronic threats. The new security protocols are active, he reported, showing detailed analytics. We've blocked 16 attempted breaches this quarter, traced back to competitors trying to access our development plans. David nodded approvingly. The lessons from Walsh's amateur hacking attempts had led to the creation of an impenetrable digital fortress. Rebecca's team was working in conjunction with our systems. Michael's pride was evident. No one accesses Miller and Pierce data without our knowledge. The empire I built from the ashes of betrayal now employs over 1,000 people across multiple subsidiaries. David continued. Miller and Pierce developments have expanded beyond luxury real estate into commercial properties, hotels, and exclusive residential communities. Sandra Walsh had transformed her legal practice into a powerhouse firm, specializing in real estate law. Her handling of the Walsh case had attracted high-profile clients seeking ruthless representation. She now headed Miller and Pierce's legal department, ensuring their operations remained unassailable. Amanda, the LA expansion plans are ready for review, she noted, pulling up architectural renderings. The sustainable luxury features you insisted on have attracted significant presale interest. Their business model had evolved far beyond my original construction company. Each Miller and Pierce property incorporated cutting-edge sustainable technology, Amanda's innovative designs, and unparalleled security systems. Thomas Reed called. Amanda added, La Maison Rouge's anniversary gala is next month. The restaurant had prospered alongside Miller and Pierce. Thomas had expanded to 3 locations, each a testament to his loyalty during my campaign of revenge. They maintained their business relationship, though I never dined in the wine cellar where Katie's betrayal had played out. Mitch entered without knocking, still the only person besides Amanda granted that privilege. Though he had risen to Chief Operations Officer, he remained my most trusted friend. Construction updates, he announced, spreading site photos across the desk. All projects are on schedule. The Dubai team sent preliminary foundation reports for the marina development. David examined the photos with a practiced eye. Each project reflected the exacting standards James Miller had instilled in me. The Empire stands as a monument to my father's principles of integrity and quality, David declared. The James Miller Foundation scholarship recipients were confirmed. Amanda, he reported, 10 students are entering construction and architectural programs this fall. The foundation represented more than philanthropy. It identified and supported talented individuals who shared James Miller's values, ensuring his legacy lived on through more than just buildings. Jessica Henderson's retirement party is next week, Mitch reminded them. The industry was expecting a major announcement. David nodded. They would reveal Miller and Pierce's most ambitious project yet, a sustainable luxury community that would redefine urban living. The development would rise on land that once housed Katie and Walsh's failed agency, a final transformation of betrayal into triumph. Rebecca Torres arrived later that afternoon, her security firm's success evident in her confident bearing. Quarterly surveillance summary, she began, activating a secure presentation screen. The report detailed more than updates on Katie and Walsh. Rebecca's team monitored potential threats, competitors, and industry trends. Their intelligence had helped Miller and Pierce stay ahead of market shifts and corporate espionage attempts. Walsh made one last attempt to re-enter real estate, she reported. He tried applying for an assistant position at a small agency in Scottsdale. Sandra's contacts ensured they knew his history. Katie's status remains unchanged, Rebecca continued. The home decoration store promoted her to shift supervisor last month. She's dating a local mechanic and lives in a rented duplex. No indication she's considering returning to real estate. David absorbed these details with detachment. The anger that had driven my revenge had long since cooled into an unshakable determination to maintain our empire's supremacy. The Thompson Industries merger is proceeding as planned, Amanda noted, changing subjects. Our real estate holdings will integrate smoothly with our Asian expansion. The merger would make Miller and Pierce the largest luxury real estate developer in the Pacific Rim. Each successful deal moved us further from the personal drama that sparked our creation. Yet I remain vigilant. My standards and my intolerance for betrayal remained unchanged. Security protocols, I asked Michael. They are already being implemented in our networks. Full integration within 60 days, he replied. Michael's team had developed a reputation for swift, thorough digital takeovers. No vulnerabilities will survive the merger, he added. The afternoon brought a visit from a potential client, a Saudi prince seeking to develop exclusive properties in Dubai. David watched as Amanda handled the presentation with practiced grace. "Your reputation precedes you, Mr. Miller," the prince commented. "They say crossing you is unwise." David's smile held no warmth. "They say many things. All true, I suspect," he replied. The prince gestured to the architectural renderings. "I appreciate men who protect what's theirs. It speaks to strength of character." The meeting concluded with signed contracts worth billions. Miller and Pierce's reputation for excellence and retribution had spread far beyond our original territory. Evening found David and Amanda at their penthouse reviewing plans for their next project. Our personal life maintained the same efficient partnership as our business dealings. No betrayal would ever breach our walls. Katie tried contacting Jessica. Amanda mentioned reading Rebecca's latest update. She wanted to apologize, perhaps seek help returning to the industry. Jessica's response was, "None required." The message never reached her. Amanda's tone held satisfaction. "Our systems intercepted it automatically," she said. "Our digital fortress extended beyond corporate security. Anyone from our past seeking to reestablish contact faced automated barriers. The lessons of betrayal were built into the very foundation of our empire." The Berlin Development Group confirmed tomorrow's meeting. Amanda noted as she changed subjects, "Our sustainable luxury proposal aligns with our expansion goals." I nodded, studying the city lights below. Each gleaming tower represented another victory, a step beyond the revenge that launched our empire. Yet I maintained the same ruthless standards and intolerance for betrayal. Mitch's weekly report arrived via secure server. Construction updates, personnel changes, market analysis, all reflecting our empire's continued growth. The friendship that exposed Katie's betrayal had evolved into an unshakable business partnership. "Remember when you were just building houses?" Mitch asked, surveying our global operations center. "I remember everything," I replied. Each betrayal, each victory, each step of my rise remained crystal clear. The empire I built from revenge now transcended its origins. Miller and Pierce properties represented the pinnacle of luxury development, and their sustainable technology innovations revolutionized the industry. Yet I never forgot the bitter lessons that shaped my success. Sandra Walsh's legal team maintained vigilance, ensuring no former associate could threaten our operations. The corporate structure she designed proved as impenetrable as our buildings. "The Tokyo development rights are secured," Amanda reported while reviewing late updates. Jessica's investment group said local partners are eager to begin construction. Our global expansion continued relentlessly. Each new project incorporated lessons learned from the past. Trust verified, loyalty rewarded, betrayal crushed without mercy. Michael Torres's security division had grown into an industry leader, protecting not just Miller and Pierce, but select clients who met our exacting standards. Walsh's latest job application was rejected, Rebecca noted. "The photography studio owner is now one of Sandra's golf partners. No one in the industry will touch him." 5 years had passed since my revenge began, yet its ripples continued to spread. My response to betrayal had become legendary in business circles. The empire I built stood as a testament to the cost of crossing me. The sunset behind Miller and Pierce Tower shone as I reviewed plans for our next venture. The anger that drove me had transformed into absolute conviction in my methods and standards. Amanda Pierce Miller shared that conviction. Our marriage had merged complementary strengths into an unstoppable force. She understood, as few did, the importance of maintaining our fortress against betrayal. The empire grew, but its core remained rooted in bitter lessons learned. Trust earned, never freely given. Loyalty rewarded, betrayal destroyed. Success built from the ashes of those who dared cross me. In my private office safe, I kept 2 photos. The old wedding picture with Katie served as a reminder of betrayal's cost. Beside it, a current photo showed the Miller and Pierce executive team, trusted allies who had helped build an empire on the ruins of broken trust. The lesson endured. Cross David Miller, and he will not just destroy you. He will erase you, replace you, and build something greater from your destruction. The empire stands as proof of my method's success. 5 years transformed revenge into legacy. Miller and Pierce developments reshaped skylines across continents. Yet, I remain vigilant. My standards and my intolerance for betrayal remain unchanged. The empire will continue growing, but its core remains unshakable. Trust verified, loyalty rewarded, betrayal crushed without mercy or forgiveness. I have built more than buildings. I have created a monument to the price of betrayal. An empire forged in the fires of revenge and tempered by ruthless determination. The future stretches before us, filled with new projects and possibilities, but the bitter lessons of the past will forever guard against weakness, ensuring the empire's foundation remains unshakable. In the end, I had not just survived betrayal. I transformed it into an empire that stands as an eternal warning. Cross me at your peril, for my revenge will echo through generations.